starting off, we're going to talk about Bunny first, right? So Bunny is quite a strong character, right? She's definitely not weak. You can completely turn a fight, you can completely secure a fight, and just like permanently sustain your team, especially if you're really useful, like holding your dashes and just really focusing on like how you're surviving and all that. But she has the problem of being compared to Zeph, and Zeph is kind of just like a lot better in general. Zeph has more consistent healing overall, a similar kind of utility for reses of being able to throw someone out. Not as good as the Bunny can do it, but he's better at like, but like I said, it's similar, while he also is like way better in other ways. So like her healing is like, it's strong, right, though it got nerfed, but it's not as good as having charges that you can consistently like restore, and you can just pop like frequently, right, to be leveling, to be increasing the HP of people and stuff like that, consistently restoring your charges, being able to do it often, right? Where you have the Bunny that only has like one burst of it, or one charge that she can get and throw at people, but it's still like overall one burst, right? And so most of her value comes from being able to sustain her teammates after they die, whereas like Zeph can still compete in that and like being a justifiable pick in terms of that same capability, but he also has like better healing, much better AoE CC, much better team utility with the movement, and like his nade is a fight winner, his ult is like just so much better, right? So with that being said, Bunny is probably going to be being put in A tier regardless. Like, yeah, you don't want to be stacking up like having a Zeph and a Bunny, right? Which is partially why she gets like a lower rating than potentially she deserves, right? Like honestly, like realistically, she's still probably more up towards S. It's just like she's being compared to Zeph, right? Whereas you have Zeph, that's S for sure. Zeph is nasty, like I just talked about, super powerful, consistent healing. He gets a lot of value for your skill, also with the way that you can consistently improve and get your charges back up all the time. The like multiple different ways you have to use like his ultimate to like cleave through enemies, your own allies, look for hit kills, like kills on something you've marked already. Like there's just so many different things that this character can do, right? So Flo is being put in S. All right, moving on to the other sets of characters. We're going to start off with Myth here, and Myth is definitely not bad. She's quite strong actually, and I think a lot of people kind of sleep on her. Myth has like a surprising level of like just zone control, and obviously she has her knockback ability, right? But she has more than that with her like her AoE range, her rain of arrows. The rain of arrows applies like this zone that not only will anti-heal anybody that walks through it, but also can be applied at like a very long range and is quite wide, and if you move through it, you're gonna get slowed too, on top of getting damage and on top of getting the anti-heal. Every form of damage will slow you to some extent in Supervive, so anything that's like consistently dealing damage like that to you is effectively also a slow, right? So this character can do like really strong forms of pressure of like tossing those arrows behind you to stop your escape, or tossing them in the middle of you to split your team, so that like they're having to like choose whether they want to get anti-healed to go through it and take damage and get slowed, or it's just like can be used to even like zone people off of you. Like you can toss it in front of you, like, you know, like toss it in front of you, and then your Huntress goes and plays like behind it, and the enemies like can't really push through it that effectively because they'll just get slowed and they'll get shit on, and they'll be like made a really easy target to get hit by things. Her movement is insane. Like she's honestly one of the hardest characters to catch. She doesn't have like the highest mobility in comparison to like Brall, but the fact that she can go through walls makes her like just absolutely nutty. So I think I'd honestly put her at like high A tier, maybe questionably verging into S tier. It's just you don't really like, in terms of like a meta composition of only picking 4 characters, she's not going to make the cut in comparison to something like Joule that just can do a lot of similar things but do it much better. All right, so moving on to Ghost here. Ghost is very sleeper. I don't really see a lot of people talking about how strong he is, but Ghost is honestly like kind of nutty. if you dash and then you jump and cancel the dash, like, you know, short slide and then dash and jump, you get a full preservation of your momentum. So you're like absolutely chunking like huge distances with it. And it's just going to take you like way farther than you should justifiably be able to go. And it's on that, like that dash, right? Because of the reset, or like the cooldown reduction of dashing and then canceling it early, like Celeste has, it's only like a 3.5 second cooldown at like your first level. It's just insane. His damage is kind of like nasty, you know? And on top of that, like his nade just doubles that damage or whatever it is, like it just makes it even much better. And also with the way that like the slows work in this game, the consistent damage output and how easy it is to hit him now that they buffed the speed of his shots, it allows him to kind of like stun lock people if he like is able to apply damage to them, right? And this is on top of the fact that he can chunk enemies through walls early in fights with his laser, and then he has his ult that can also like cut people's escape routes off or whatever. But he also has his nade, which is just mind-numbingly insane. If you knock that up to rank 3 and you hit it, and you hit a single person with it, it basically full resets the cooldown. It has a 40% reduction on the cooldown for hitting a single person with the knockback, and not even like stunning them, just hitting them. And so, you know, it takes like a 1.5 seconds for it to activate. And by like at level 3, it's I believe on like a 6 second cooldown. So you're at a 1.5 seconds, that's 4.5 seconds plus 40% of 6, we're at 2.4 seconds. You know, so we're now at 1.1 second remainder of time until you get your nade back for hitting one person. Hit 2 people, it's insta reset. So it's just like, people don't understand how insane this character is and how big the explosion is, and how like he's not like, I don't know, like Soldier 76 in Overwatch that like has to hit these flanks, has like only like this just like constantly kiting people kind of stuff. Like if you want to push into this character, he will just like throw his nade behind him, knock you back, have you probably hit a wall, and then he'll just crap on you. And if he messes it up, he'll just dash away and laugh at you. And there's not a lot of characters in the game that are like are like able to chase him down. It's, yeah, so I don't know. I think Ghost is honestly an S+. Maybe not as S+ as another character we're about to talk about, but just absolutely insane character. Shrike, moving on to Shrike. Shrike is interesting because there's been times where she's just been like legitimately obscene, and she should be obscene. She just, you know, is the sniper character, right? You hit once, boom. You hit twice, boom, they're full dead, right? Like that's the sniper Shrike. And that's like, it's kind of has like the, you know, I don't know if you guys have seen this like meme IQ chart thing. Let me pull up Paint, you know, where it's like you have like this IQ thing, right? And it's like low, right, high, and then it's like mid. This, yeah, and like, you know, this is population or whatever. And it's like you have like the people with the low IQ like seeing Shrike to be like, oh, you just click on him, that's just so strong, right? And then like mid tier being like, well, no, there's like all these things, right? And then high tier being like, oh no, you just click on him, right? Like that's how it was for so long, right? Like, but on top of this clicking power, she had so many different ways to like bypass the one weakness that is, or like the one of two weaknesses that a sniper character is supposed to have. The first one is not being able to go through walls, right? Or not being able to shoot through walls, right? And so you use cover, and that's how you bypass snipers. You use cover and you walk up close to them. But Shrike has different utility that was able to stop that, right? Like she had a nade she could toss behind a corner to knock people out. She had an ultimate that she could hit and finish off a target that she'd like hit once type thing. Then she had vision to be able to go see through the walls, because that's another portion of the whole like hiding from snipers. She has vision to hide, or, you know, ability to like bypass the vision limitations that she's supposed to have, right? And then she has like a decent mobility, or she did, right? But with the way that the game has changed, with characters like Joule, Felix, Joule, Shiv, Brall becoming very powerful, in addition to like characters like Zeph that can up the tempo and like send a full team on top of people without them like being able to, like, you know, not having to use their dash for that. Shrike is getting like pretty rough. Felix also has gotten like okay, right? And so it's just making Shrike really pretty poor. Shrike is honestly, I think, one of the worst characters in the game right now. She should be strong, but she's just not. She's not unplayable by any means, but she's pretty bad, to be completely honest, like a high tier. And you'll kind of like see what I'm getting at with the whole like Gap Lamau type stuff, where it's just like Shrike can compete against Zeph, Shrike can compete against Bunny, Shrike can compete against Huntress, right? But when it comes to something like you know, like maybe Ghost is like on the lower end of S+, like he's still really strong. Like maybe he actually is in the Gap Lamau, right? Whatever. But in comparison to, well, the next character, Joule, is just like it's not even funny, to be honest. Like Joule is absolutely insane, to be honest. Joule has one of the highest mobilities in the game. She has a bunch of different ways to reset her dashes. She has the ability to, like, you know, stack people up, dash, reset, get mana reset. She has the orbs that she spawns from hitting her knockback on people. And, you know, she has all these different ways to get that dash back. She has her ults also, which I believe resets her dash. Even if it doesn't, if you hit somebody with the ultimate, then it spawns the orb that then, you know, you get your dash reset with anyway, right? So I don't think it actually resets the dash, but it basically does because you get the orb. And so that's like, that is enough of like an insane character, right? With that, and it's like, oh, she has long range, and then you stack people and then you burst them. Like that sounds kind of strong, right? But on top of that, you're looking at having two separate abilities with which to like manipulate the enemy's positioning or secure a pick. She has her knockback spear, right? So it's like, oh, okay, well, how am I supposed to get away from a character that's just gonna like stack you, right? Because this character, Joule, just wants to sit there and just poke at you for a while until you're stacked up, and then she wants to dash onto you and shit on you and then dash through you like out or through another ally that's low or like into an orb and then all that kind of nonsense, right? That's what she really wants to be doing, right? But then she has resources and methods with which to stop herself from being punished for that, or bypassed. Because, you know, it's like a character like Firefox or whatever that wants to get on that Joule, even minus the fact that she has a strong dash to get away with, she can just hit him in the face with her knockback stun, right? And by that's stacking them, and then you're applying extra stacks onto people, and it's just like such a bunch of stuff going on, you know. And as soon as they get stacked, like they've already taken damage from your abilities, from your primaries, from the knockback spear, and they're gonna die probably, right? And then on top of that, you have your range circle pull. That is not just a pull, but it can be an enemy pull backwards, like because you can angle it, right? So if you hold the keybind and then you pick a direction, it'll pull them in that direction afterwards, right? And so she just has all these different methods, right? And that makes her like S+, because when she's competing against a character like Shrike, right, for example, they're both trying to compete each other at range, and Joule's range is like roughly similar to Shrike's. Sure, the Shrike is like potentially hitting it, right? But if the Shrike hits a shot, the Joule's probably already stacked her once or twice and it's kind of chilling out, just vibes out, maybe they trade, whatever, right? And it's just as soon as the Joule secures like a good enough advantage, right, she can actually engage and go and slam and burst and kill pretty easily, right? Whereas Shrike can't do that quite the same. Like, yeah, she can dash in, but she's way more committed. Whereas with the Joule, it's like even if you dash in, you hit the burst, you're still able to like disengage afterwards, even if you kill them or not. So it's just nasty. For Shiv is also going to be finding herself towards like the S range. She's very strong. She got buffed. The amount of like AoE damage she has is kind of nasty. The thing about Shiv that's crazy is that she is kind of supposed to be like a flanker-esque character, right? Has a lot of huge single target damage. So you can burst someone really hard, right? That's like what the character's kind of supposed to be. Like catch someone in a 1v1, like hit all her little dashes, land her shots so they get resets, and then dodge the enemy's things and like blah, 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 all this stuff, right? But the thing is, these type of like assassins or flankers or whatever, the way that you counter them in a hero shooter game is, you know, a game like this one, a game like Overwatch, whatever, where you shoot things at people, projectiles, and they have walls block stuff and you can't dash through them. is you stack up on your allies. That's how you counter it in Overwatch. If there's a tracer that's like bullying your backline or whatever, the backline needs to walk up into your tanks so that your tanks can like put a shield up in their face, etc. Whatever. And so that's how you're supposed to be able to beat this character, right? Because she'll beat you in a 1v1. Like Shiv doesn't lose 1v1s. Maybe she loses it to like Joule. If the ghost catches her with a nade, then he can win it. Like the S pluses she can be competed with, right? But like every other character, like no, you shouldn't be winning. You just have all these movements. You have your ultimate that's a huge AoE damage that got buffed. You have double dashes on it. Like it's just silly, right? And that's on top of like her other movement, like her blink or her tether, or not tether, her like teleport dagger that she can use to hit, then engage, then escape with, right? But you have all that sort of extra utility for like single target value, and so you should stack up, right? That's how you beat it. However, she has a stun ability that a ground, which is obviously extremely powerful against a single target if you hit it, but as soon as people stack up, it hits one person and then it moves further because that's how that works, and then it hits another person, they're both stunned, right? So like your counterplay to this character is not. Your only counterplay to this character is to get distance from her. So to try and bait her into a bad engagement and then back up, or just like land a really good like unexpected stun on her type of thing. So yep, she's an S. She's very similar to Zeph here in power. Now we're moving on to Brall. I think we've all kind of realized this at this point, but Brawl is insane. Brawl is S+. Damage buffs. Brall is the Cassante meme. If you guys know that, it's just literally like, how much stuff can this character do? He has the best raw mobility output in the game without like some really funky things, like maybe Zeph using his like jump knockback thing from his primary in combo with some powers or something like that, or like maybe Hunter's running through walls, right? But Brall is just like insane. And his like contingent movement is absolutely nasty because he has 3 spot dashes that are really useful and they reset all at the same time. He has his tether, which is great for traveling around the map, and then he also has just a dash built into his charge dash, and it's just like these things are all in very low cooldowns. They are quite far in distance. It's extremely powerful, and he's just extremely nasty with them, right? And then he has a hard stun. If he barely misses the hard stun, it's a slow. If he has that, he has the ability to straight up box people. So, you know, having the ability to like get killed and then res mid fight is like a really powerful thing that a character like Zeph and Elluna and characters like Void and also Celeste can like facilitate, right, as a part of their character kit. But then if you have this guy, just slap him with his little boom, right when they're low for execution damage, well, boom, they're getting executed for like half and they're straight to box, and like you are now at an inherent loss in the fight, right? If you traded a kill like that and the other team has a chance to res theirs, you don't, and it's just like you're probably gonna lose now. What else does he have? He has AoE anti-heal on his spin attack. He has he has an ultimate that completely denies all damage and utility being used on him. That is also useful as like a team protective ability because it'll eat the like damage from certain abilities. Like if you toss a Zeph ultimate into the face of a Ronin or a Brall and they use their ult, it just stops it, so you won't get hit. It won't hit people behind the Brall. Same thing works like that with Celeste. Like you can just stand behind your Brall if they use the ult and it'll block a Celeste ultimate. It's works like, you know, Oath's shield or something like that. Yep. He also he heals himself when he kills people. He heals and mobs. He heals himself when he kills when he like hits people with his ultimate. He has the ability to restore mana off of things like trees. Like just primary fighting trees restores his mana. So he has like no mana concerns realistically unless you're like trolling. And it's just like, what else do you want in a character? Like his damage is not even terrible too. Like the raw original damage output isn't amazing, but as soon as you get someone like even remotely low, like boom, slam them to box. It's just, yeah, I don't know, man. You know, he's just insane. He's just insane. Like you shouldn't be able to compete. You shouldn't be able to compete with this sort of character You know, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. And like I've been playing with Niza. Shout out to Niza. He streams on Twitch. He's insane. And he's been playing Brall, and it's just like he can honestly like consistently like 1v3 on the character. Pretty realistically. It's nasty. And you know, like we're not playing against people who are bad. Like we're playing against like people who are top tier last play test. Like, you know, now we're rank 1 wins because we're rolling, right? But we're playing against people who are also very good at the game, and they're just getting like crapped on if they're not playing this character. It's just insane. So anyway, with that character solved, we all understand Brall at this point. And there's probably something I'm forgetting that he can do too, like low-key. Maybe just all like the knockbacks on his primary attack. Oh, yeah. Oh, he also, if he slams people, he can, you know, hard stun them, right? And then he can tether them. And the tether applies like individual anti-heal the whole duration that's on them. And then when he activates the tether, he can pull the person towards him while also pulling him to them, right? So if he slams somebody, even if they're getting healed, and then so like he slams somebody, but they get full healed, and then he applies the tether to them, they are like gonna struggle to escape, right? He's gonna be crapping on them with his damage, just bowling the crap out of them, and they're anti-healed the whole time, by the way. And as soon as they try to escape, he can just pull them in, right? So they dash, he pulls, it's gonna cut their momentum, it's gonna pull him towards them. Like he should basically be able to like insta guarantee a kill on anybody that he tethers like that. It's just insane, right? Oh yeah, and he can like guaranteed spike over the abyss too, which is just insane. And his like dashes too can be used like during any of his abilities, so he has the ability to micro anything he wants. So he can like, you know, charge up, dash, and then micro dash with his stun to like make sure he hits somebody. It's not like it's super difficult to do. Okay, with that covered, we're gonna move on to Bishop. I put a lot of time into Bishop. I really like her as a character. She's really fun, and she got buffed pretty heftily this patch. But honestly, I don't think she's really like super amazing right now. She's definitely not like Shrike tier by any means. I don't know. I don't think she's as good as Huntress. I think she's towards like a lower A tier, to be completely honest. She has decent utility all around. Her punch is powerful. She has decent mobility to escape with her ultimate, or like hard engage with divers with her ultimate, just ult and go in type stuff. But she doesn't have this sort of like she fits in the situation where she could potentially be played as like a beefier DPS, or directly as the actual like sort of like pseudo tank, right? Or like I call them tanks, right? But they're kind of like it's just space controlling characters, which is what, you know, they're defined as in Overwatch, right? But they're full tanks like Reinhardt, big shield guy, wow, down to like, actually there's not even anything quite that tanky, but you know, down to more like a, I don't know, like a diva kind of character, like just being like an off tank, like holding some space, controlling, but not being like omega tanky or something like that. Anyway, but this character, like, she's in like a position where she's in between those two ranges, where she could go more into the damage, go more into the tankiness. But it's like, why would you play her as like a tanky character when you could play Celeste? Celeste has a much more reliable, like has a generally equivalent, like Bishop's movement is better than Celeste, but Celeste is like not terribly worse by any means. And Celeste also has an ultimate that is like a huge AoE. Like I will not, like my team is super protected during this, and I can like hugely pressure and manipulate enemies with it. And so you're kind of comparing the wall to her punch, and it's just like, which one of these is more powerful in terms of your team protection, right? So for that case, it's like, well, you just don't play Bishop, you play Celeste, right? And then the opposite side of that is like, so for damage type stuff, like, so like Bishop does not have, she has like solid movement all around, but it's not as insane or snappy as other characters are. So she'll get caught by things, and her hitbox is a little bit bigger, not as big as like Kingpin's or Oathbreakers is, but it's a bit bigger. And so she'll just kind of like caught by some things every now and then, and it's really easy to like over move against her. Like, yeah, you can, if you do things properly, you can hit people with your primaries to like get CD reduction on her dashes and also get the knockback from them, like jump and then shoot to get knockback. And that's strong, right? It definitely is strong, but it's not like, it's a little bit contingent on circumstances being decent, right? Where it's just like, if you get pulled up by another team, do you want to be on Celeste or do you want to be on Bishop, right? Maybe like they're generally kind of like somewhat equivalent in that, but it's just like the team utility is just so much better for Celeste overall. And the damage is better too. Because on Bishop, you want to be playing really nice and slow. You don't want fights to be forced. You basically want to sit there and like play a good angle on the side, like poke people down, manipulate their positioning with your ranged nade knockback. And then you want to be then looking for the either like punch them off you when they jump on you or get them grouped up and then punch them into each other to kill them, right? But it's just like, if you're pushing her into the damage range, you have a character like Brall that can do that same level of like jump on people, but like a billion times better. And then you have a character like Joule that can do that same thing of range poking a billion times better. And has like way more range CC to manipulate people, to knock them off. Like she basically has like Rocket Jumper's or Bishop's punch, but it's ranged. And she has a stun to pull people in or pull them away. Bishop doesn't have that. You know, she does, but it's like way worse. It's her ranged nade thing. It's just like not really anywhere near in comparison. You know, and so in terms of raw damage output, like if I click on somebody and like I tag them like 4 times as Bishop, right? Or I'm tagging into a group. I'm like poking them a little bit, right? And that's good or whatever. But if I'm playing Joule, they're about to die, you know, and I can just dash them and kill them immediately. Or I can be playing a character like Ghost. I can just throw in the nade and just like have the same sort of like AoE stun potential that her ult does, or her punch does, but you don't actually have to get close to them to do it. And you get knockbacks, or you get resets on the chances or the punches and stuff like that, or the stuns and stuff like that. So she's like, I don't know. I think she's honestly probably on a B tier. She's not unplayable. Maybe she's like low A tier, like she's A minus, and Shrike is like B minus kind of thing. I guess it's kind of more what I put her at, but she's just like, and I'll probably end up playing her a bit this playtest, but she's just not as good. Right. So moving on to Felix. Felix kind of falls into a similar situation of not fulfilling the role of like an engage character as well. Because his job is like, oh, I go jump in, woo, and then I pull them, and then my team finish them off, right? Which means he's taking the slot of your character that's reliant on, or like your non-healing character who's reliant on your teammates to finish off the damage portion, right? And that's what his job is. Because basically what I'm seeing meta in like the way that the game kind of needs to be, or compositions need to be designed at the moment, is I think that we're looking more towards like, you have 2 strong damage dealers, you have 1 character that's responsible for doing some sort of space control, tanking. So like, you know, Felix, Kingpin, Celeste, or Oath, because they can all either just like threaten through walls or knock people off of them or dive engage to create space for your team. But they're not the healers, and like Oath's healing isn't good enough to justify it, right? And so like that's the role. And you have one of those, and you have one of the healers, either Bunny or Zeph, and then you have 2 of the hard damage dealers, and that's a balanced comp. And it like, yeah, right. And so for Felix, it's kind of like, okay, do you trade him for one of these 5 other, or these other 4 guys? And like I probably shouldn't have put Void here. Void's kind of like pseudo space controlling, but whatever, we'll get to him. And it's like, okay, well, do you want to trade it for one of these guys, right? And so you're comparing him to either the tankiness of like Celeste is like the biggest one that you're competing with, right? And for the same reasons about Rocket Jumper and Bishop, sorry, he doesn't have the ability to like push people off. He doesn't have as huge of an AoE. Like he has an AoE dash through or whatever, and it's strong for his ultimate, but Celeste is better, way more like zonal control and lots of stuff like that, with the knockback too, and the slow zones too on top of that. Nasty. And she doesn't have to commit. Felix has to commit. And so then it's like, okay, well, if that's not an option, well, let's look at it in terms of the damaging. And it's like, well, why would you ever play Felix when you could play Brall? Because Brall will do the same thing that Felix will do, basically. Not entirely, but similar. And he doesn't need to set up. He is the damage. Like he will jump in, slam, kill someone, box them, and laugh at you. Like Brall should become a character like Felix in terms of just like an engager, can bully people around, like he's a bruiser, right? But he's not, and so it's like, why play Felix? But disregarding the fact that Brall is just like so much better, I honestly think he's like solid A tier. Like Felix is not horrendous. After they gave him a second dash, he's not super horrendous. It's just he's not as good compared to like other characters. And like all the characters are generally playable, especially if you're not like playing at like the absolute max level or something right now. Anyway, Void is numerically very powerful right now, but in terms of his inherent capabilities in the game, he's extremely bad. Battle royales are extremely contingent on, you know, the gameplay of third partying. It's, even if you're able to predict where people are to third party, like it adjusts your gameplay, right? And it allows you, it forces you to do things you don't want to do all the time, right? And so when you have a character like, what's a good one? Let's just say Brall. I mean, or like a moderately balanced one, like Felix or something like that. It's like kind of some similar stuff. Felix, right, has the ability has 2 dashes and a flyaway dash. So like if they're in the middle of a fight and they get pulled up on them, there's like a pretty decent chance they're gonna be able to escape, you know? And so they're kind of like, they're kind of like chilling, right? In that situation. So you can go aggro into more situations, expecting to be able to survive off of it. But a character like Void has basically no mobility. And so if you get caught out in any way, you're screwed. If you get surprised in any way, you should die. And similarly, that means you can't aggro and like your base aggressiveness as much because, well, 1, it's hard to travel around the map, right? But 2, you are you're much you know, like you're gonna get pulled up on, and you can't just commit as much, right? And then the second portion of things is that with all the things in the game that you can't account for, like for example, an enemy just showing up and having an air blast or something, and you're just kind of hanging out, and then all of a sudden one pulls up and then air blasts you, and you get knocked into the abyss. You need a character that's going to be able to survive that, right? And so you have Felix. Felix doesn't have to glide immediately, and can just dash away and then glide to escape, right? Or could ult to escape and not have to be forced to glide. Or you're playing in like a late game circle where the circle just decides that, oh, guess what, we're playing over a bunch of abyss, and your team, you know, was like on one side of it, and then they decided that the circle was going the other direction. Then, you know, you're kind of screwed on Void. You can, like, there's ways to play around it, right? But it's just not nearly as viable as like having like one of these other characters on your team. Having said that, he's like numerically quite strong. His like empower is like super easy to get. His ultimate is extremely strong. His range stun is quite decent, and he has the ability to like secure a lot of 1v1 opportunities because he can poke through walls, right? So he has like capabilities essentially. But yeah, so because of that, I'm honestly gonna throw him in like A minus. Like he's not, I don't even think he's as bad as Shrike. Like I think I'd rather be playing with a Void than a Shrike, probably. In terms of like some more like super high tier scrim lobby play, like definitely don't want this character at all on my team. But yeah, all right, on to Kingpin. I put like 270 hours into this character. I probably have more time than I really genuinely believe I have more time than anybody in the game that isn't a dev on this character. In fact, I basically know it. Like I said, 270 hours on the character. No one else has one-tricked the character like I did forever. And the ones that did showed up like way later than me. I've been playtesting for a year and 7 months now. And I put like a year and 3 months of that like straight up into Kingpin, right? So I understand this character quite well. I think Kingpin has one true strength. His true strength is his hook. He used to be a more versatile character that had the ability, like had reliable kills from his stuns, right? His like dash slams. But that isn't really like, that shouldn't be happening quite as much. It's pretty predictable. And as the game has developed, it's had all the characters, like basically every character I can look at in here has had their movement like giga buffed basically. Brall got giga buffed, Joule got giga buffed, Ghost got giga buffed. Zeph got giga buffed. Shiv's gotten, they stayed about the same. Hunter's giga buffed or has become into existence. Like Bishop's giga buffed, Felix giga buffed in terms of movement. Elluna's movement's insane now. Shrike's is even better than it used to be, right? It's just like the characters have gotten their movement dramatically increased, and so it's way harder to like reliably be able to hit people on Kingpin or hook them. His hitbox is 2 times as much as it used to be, or is 2 times as big as like the average character. And so just with the way that this game has all these like grounded AoE circles of death and stuns, it just like makes it very miserable. And like for having a 2 times the size hitbox, you don't have the same hitbox size as or you don't have like the HP, you don't have double the HP pool. He has his HP peaks at like 3k if he goes full max, right, where other characters HP will peak at like 2200 or 2400. So he's like absolutely insane, or he's like not insane. he has one thing he can do that's very powerful, which is hook people through walls. That's his true strength. The rest of his kit is like it's not passable really. Like people who play it just tend to get really good at the character, to be honest, and they force it to work. But if the character doesn't have other ones standing around it to like make a lot of space for it and like pull a lot of aggro, you'll get walked into. And Kingpin's very bad in close range fights. Like his gun kind of seems like a shotgun, but it's not. It doesn't deal that much damage. His ultimate is very close range. His dashes are on like he has gotten his dashes like omega nerfed. His base dash at level 1, his long dash is on a 16-second cooldown. And like what'll happen, I'll pull up paint because, you know, why not? What'll happen to him a lot of the time is that you'll have like a, you know, little Kingpin here, right? You'll have him here, and then you'll have like the enemy team come and jump on you, and they'll land like here, and they'll land like here maybe. And the, you know, and like when you're in a fight, right, like maybe there's another one like chasing your team over here, and you need to escape this direction. Like this isn't the best example, but whatever. Like let's just say this happens, because these things do happen a lot, because a lot of times they'll be like, you know, like a wall here, maybe you have an escape route here, but then like maybe there's like some stupid little mob like standing in this or whatever. Like this stuff happens all the time, right? What essentially ends up happening for Kingpin is that Kingpin, his dashes are like at a significantly reduced ability, right? He wants to try and go directly this direction, or his like only options are to go where he won't get body blocked, because if he tries to go through here, he'll get body blocked. If he tries to go down here at all, he'll get body blocked. Even if he's trying to like go straight across, he'll get body blocked as people walk into him, because you can't dash through people and your dash will just get stopped. This is like if they aren't even trying to stun you or slow you with their like much bigger hitboxes, right? So your only movement options are like, you know, not even like going past up here. It's just literally up like this direction only, essentially, and you just have severely limited comparisons. Whereas like if you're playing a, you know, a character that's like a lot smaller, like it's literally half the size of the hitbox, like this is a viable escape through here. You know, this is a viable escape. You can probably make it through here also, and you'll just get stopped by things a lot. Things you don't even know were there, right? It's why like yes, I put a lot of time into Kingpin. I don't play him anymore for a reason. I get way more value on Celeste. Felix, Bishop. Yeah. So anyway, and he's also ability based too, so he doesn't scale as well as other characters do. Some characters, they scale, like they have a lot more value early in the rounds, because they don't have to rely on their cooldown flows, essentially. And Kingpins are also changing all the time. Like I said, his first dash is on a 16-second cooldown, and then you get some CDR, you get like up to level 6 or 7 or whatever, and then your dash is down to like maybe 10 seconds or something like that, maybe. And like that's okay, but it's just such a huge difference, right? And then you have a second dash to be considering, the micro dash, and it's very tricky, right? Just be like keeping that up, and if you make a single mistake, you lose. Like that's how it works on Kingpin. If you dive and you slam and you don't kill somebody, you are dead. You should be dead. So Kingpin is honestly pretty shit. I think he's worse than Shrike. Celeste, I'm also gonna pop into S tier. Celeste is pretty nasty, not gonna lie. She's not, I think she's like low S tier, she does the tanking role the best of any character right now, in terms of like characters that are like properly designed to be doing more of that kind of stuff, like space controlling and securing. She doesn't have this insane like, I will just jump on your team and frag this ever loving crap out of you, or I can like win a whole fight off of a single CC ability while like full sustaining my team and like saving Wisp, right? Not even to mention like how insane these guys are. Like, she doesn't have anywhere near that sort of like frag potential or like survivability, right? But she still has a wall that's like one of the best abilities in the game, with how it can just manipulate and push people off of areas, especially in a BR where you need to be able to hold space. And there's times where you have to force yourself into space from like just whatever it may be, right? Like maybe like you're about to get hit by like the train, or the circle's pushing you, etc. That kind of stuff, right? Her slow zones are nasty on her little ranged ice things. Those alone are like, will just give you a severe advantage in a fight. If you hit like a little bit of a flank and you toss one like behind someone that your team wants to go on, like they're just going to be inevitably taking a bunch more damage. And a lot of times they'll just have to they'll be forced to keep standing in it too, or they'll have their dash reduced in value. And then she has a panic button. For those that you were watching me stream earlier, you probably saw me use my freeze ult mostly as like a panic button, really. Like, I'm about to take a bunch of damage, I need to ult. And it also has team wiping potential, right? So you can just like, I'm not going to die, I choose not to die, or it can be like, I'm going to hard chain or hard CC the whole enemy team. They can be hard to hit that, but like it has that capability, you know? And then there's also like a bunch of different movement tech you can do with like with health packs. If you jump into them and you dash in them, you like get flung up to like the ceiling. And so she has like good mobility. Not the best, not in comparison to like Brall or Flex or Shiv. Like, I was having such a hard time catching up to the boys today, but it's still like without a doubt passable type thing. And her damage is like solid. And she's like good at level 1, 2, even without her like level 1, 2, and 3, like even without her abilities like super juiced. She just pokes, and like her little darts just linger, and people don't really see how much damage they're taking, and then they'll just get procced with one of the like the full charges, and they'll just explode, and it's just like GG. Oath is a little bit tricky. He's not like, he's also not, he's about like something like Kingpin, to be completely honest. Like he's probably a little bit better than Kingpin. Like, he has things he can do that are strong and powerful, right? But they're not like, they're just not as insane as some of the other characters in the game. And so like I said, you know, you're comparing him to some of these other things of, you need to have only one character that isn't like super high damage output, that's not like your main healing source. And so he's competing for the slot with Kingpin. So, you know, maybe he beats Kingpin in that aspect, right? But he's competing with like a Bishop. Rather have a Bishop for sure. Bishop actually has the ability to keep people off of you. Kingpin only has the ability to push them into you, really. Because like these characters that are super high mobility, like Brall, like they'll just laugh at a Kingpin. Like, you should never be getting slammed by Kingpin as like Brall or Joule or yeah, right. And you have characters with more reliable stuns too, so it's just like whatever. But anyway, Oath has no true like raw like super strong output. He has like solid healing, he can hit stuns, but they're like reliant on the map being how he wants them to. He has the knockback on his shield, like the same sort of thing, but his shield itself is pretty weak. It just doesn't like have the guaranteed value of something like a Celeste wall does, you know? Like I said, his damage output is not comparable to anything on the top of the roster, and his mobility is not anywhere near as good as these characters either. So yeah, yep, kind of meh overall.